Yo, what's up? What's up? Prince Sports here. Want to get to y'all. Talk about some more basketball talk. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Prince Sports in full effect. Okay. Let's get down to the nitty gritty a little bit. A lot of people ask, what is the GOAT? What's the greatest of all time? What are they using the criteria of greatest of all time? What makes a player the greatest basketball player of all time, or somebody the greatest ever? Now, I think several people have different reasons to why they call somebody the greatest of all time. Sometimes it could be bias based. Sometimes it could be objective based. Sometimes it could be favorite. Or sometimes you have a little system, or you have a little system that you go by, and that person checks off everything that you're asking for in terms of being great. Okay. For me personally, the greatest of all time in anything for me is basically there's a criteria for it. All right. Now, some people rank certain people or things as the greatest of all time, and they're not particularly a big time fan of that thing, but it fits the description of what they're saying, so they just say, hey, I gotta give it up. I wasn't a fan of this thing or that guy when they were coming up, but I have to give it up. This person's the GOAT for me. All right. Now, my criteria would be basically there's a list. I go by a time span because in reality, there is no greatest of all time, okay? I'm sorry to upset a lot of people, but there's no such a thing as somebody or something being the greatest of all time. It just doesn't exist, okay? This is a never-ending debate that us sport fans like to do, which sometimes makes me wonder why we even do it sometimes. Because it's an endless debate that goes nowhere. It really does. But I like losing logic and this common sense to certain things. To me, the GOAT is, or the greatest of all time, we could never prove it. I never seen Michael Jordan go up against Kobe when it really counts, prime for prime. And I told you in my last video why you can't mess with time to let that even happen. I never seen LeBron go up against Jordan to really see what's what. All we could do is just constantly speculate and come up with opinions. Some valid opinions at most to why this player would be better than another player. All right? But for me, I go by the most logic thing, which is what have you done when you was playing compared to another player, what has he done when he was playing? Okay, to me, LeBron James comes up short in surpassing Jordan. Kobe Bryant comes up short in surpassing Jordan. Okay, now these guys didn't have to go completely, such and such and in the finals to surpass Jordan. I don't rank greatness on how many championships you won or who's undefeated in the finals. There's no such a thing as an NBA Finals record, okay? This is something haters came up with when LeBron was playing. You only heard this when LeBron has played. I've been watching basketball and following the game of basketball since the 80s. I have never heard in my lifetime until LeBron James started going to the finals and winning some and losing some, a finals record. Now everybody bought into this narrative or this nonsense of a finals record, okay? Nobody said nothing about Jerry West when he lost all those finals or even bring that up. Nobody even bring his finals record up most of the time. We only talk about LeBron's finals record for some weird reason. But to me, Jordan's the GOAT because he played respectively 15 years, right? But the last 2 years, he was out of his prime. His legacy was already completed at the point. So if you want to still count those, fine. But What I'm looking at was what he did from 13 seasons as playing the Chicago Bull, you know. And I have never seen an individual player that dominant and that won the most individual awards and team success all in that time frame. Okay? And you could make an argument that Jordan would have had 8 championships in 13 years, which would have been extremely difficult for anybody to even be compared or debated with Jordan at that point. He'd been like an undisputed GOAT. But the reason why he is the GOAT is because this guy's a 10-time scoring champ. Okay, he dominated scoring in two-way basketball. He was a former defensive player of the year too, and he's a first-team all-defense countless times. This guy has played at the highest level of basketball for 13 years, okay, on both ends of the floor, and dominated people, okay, stopped people from winning. To me, that's dominance. That's true dominance. Now, when people say LeBron is dominant, keep in mind, people have beaten LeBron James, okay? LeBron James is not undefeated in no aspect, okay? Neither is Michael Jordan. But LeBron James didn't put a stranglehold on the NBA like Jordan did. I mean, Jordan, he could have won the MVP almost every year, you know? And by the way, he has more MVPs than LeBron, even though it's one more than LeBron, you know? He should have had like 6 or 7 to be realistic. But you can make the same case for LeBron. He could have had like 5 already by now, at the most 5. But the reason why Jordan is ahead of LeBron James is because one of the reasons I just stated. But keep in mind, Jordan was he was a #1 scorer 10 times. Okay, let's just get on that. All right? I know LeBron James is not a so-called go-to scorer. That's not what he's like. But in order to be dominant, you have to at least be #1 at something countless times. All right? And LeBron has only been a scoring champ once in his entire career. He's played 17 seasons. Okay? Now, he's been in the top 5 and things like that for scoring, but that means there's always been people outscoring him and doing historic things, you know? Jordan, on the other hand, was the only dude that stranglehold the NBA. I mean, the 90s is self-explanatory, but you can make a case that he was the best player in the NBA during the late 80s as well. Just couldn't get past a better team in the Detroit Pistons, all right? But outside of that, countless defensive first team. He's actually won a Defensive Player of the Year, something LeBron has never did, okay? And how many times have I heard people say, this guy cooked LeBron, or, you know, this guy bought it to LeBron, I mean, he dropped this and such, or this guy shut down LeBron. These are things that I never heard when Jordan played. When Jordan played, he was always the guy that doing that to other people, you know? And that's the stuff that I would never forget because I was around for the Jordan era. I watched Jordan play, and I seen the dominance that he had over basketball. It was like no other, okay? He was like Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson rolled into one during his time. And he still has an effect on the game right now as we speak. So, for me, I go by that criteria because I can't say Jordan will outplay LeBron James because I never seen Jordan play against LeBron James, right? So I don't have 100% proof that LeBron or Jordan are better than each other. But what I can do is base things off what I seen a guy do in his prime compared to the other guy doing in his prime. I seen LeBron have mental breakdowns. You know, I seen him like supposedly give up sometimes, you know. And then I'm like, what are you doing, LeBron? You know, put your foot on their neck. You know, I have never seen these moments from Jordan. Even Jordan's lowest moments, you never get the sense from him that he was quitting. You know, he was like, oh, I'm emptying out the whole clip. Give me every gun. Brrr, you know, till it's all gone. You know, he's going out like like a gangster, like an OG. You know, you're gonna have to Scarface style. You're gonna have to just take him out. You know. So I'm not saying Jordan's perfect or he's a god of basketball for some of you that thinking that. I'm not biased like that. I'm just a guy that try to be fair as possible. So when you understand where I'm coming from, and I say Jordan is the greatest, it's because of the simple fact that I have never seen a guy in my lifetime remain that dominant. Okay, you know what I mean? Kobe hasn't been that dominant either. Take him for example. He played 20 years, right? And he's led the league in scoring, I believe, twice or 3 times. I may be a little mistaken on that. I may have forgotten how many times he led. But that's still a short amount of time for leading scoring. And there was a time when Kobe has never been a definitive number one or best player in basketball a lot of times. It's always been another guy you could say, hey, I think he's a little better than Kobe. This is why Kobe's legacy will always be tied with Shaquille O'Neal and Tim Duncan. Okay, and Kobe Bryant. Those are the 3 guys that you could name best of their era. And you can't rule 1 out or 2 out. You have to always connect those 2 guys, all 3 of those guys together. Their legacies are connected. Jordan's legacy is connected to guess who? Michael Jordan. Okay? Now, LeBron James is an all-time great to me too. And his legacy is compared to other players, but not that much, and it's becoming significantly different. You know, you can make a case that outside of Michael Jordan, LeBron James probably has the second or most third dominant career in basketball. Okay, now Kareem was completely dominant. Kareem was a dominant force, right? So Jordan, Kareem, and LeBron have dominant careers, but none of those guys have a dominant career in the in short time span, in such a stranglehold time span like Jordan did. So that's why Jordan's the GOAT for me. All right, and Jordan, to put the icing on the cake, he's won in that time frame. Okay, and he stopped people from winning. This is something that LeBron has never done. Everybody ate. Kawhi Leonard got 3 chips under LeBron James. Kevin Durant, I know he joined Golden State, but he still got 3 chips under LeBron James. You know, Steph Curry got 1 chip under LeBron when LeBron didn't even, when Kevin Durant wasn't even on the team. You know, and then let me get to Tim Duncan. You know what I mean? He got two chips on LeBron, and you know, there are some debatable championships LeBron left on the table. You know. And there's some championships that I think if Jordan was in that same situation, I don't think he would have lost. One for sure, I don't think Jordan would never lost. If you replace LeBron with Jordan in 2011, I think Jordan would have won that championship in 2011. You make a case for the 2014 as well. In some championships, I don't think Jordan could even get past. I don't think Jordan would have been able to beat that dynasty of a team that was the Golden State Warriors. Man, that was a monstrosity of a I don't know what word you would have used, but that team was just at their best when they're fully healthy was almost unbeatable to most people because they were a force, you know, and only way to beat that Golden State Warriors team was to hope that somebody got injured. In this case, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, both went down. But imagine if all those guys was fully healthy. They could have been sitting on 4 championships in 5 years. That's completely dominant. And they still won 3 championships out of 5, which is still dominant. But that's an argument for a different case. The greatest teams of all time, the Warriors will be definitely ranked up there with some of the best teams ever. Greatest players is a complete different thing. But now you know. So you can tell me who's your GOAT and why and what criteria you go by, you know, and maybe we can make a little more sense out of this endless debate that never will end. I mean, we're going to keep arguing and talking about who's better for probably years to come. I don't think this is ever going to go anywhere, but it is what it is. Peace.